He comes bobbing along, along. There'll be no more sobbing when he starts throbbing his own sweet song. Wake up, you sleepyhead. Get up, get out of bed. Cheer up, the sun is red. Live, love, laugh and be happy.
Hello and welcome to this week's Robin Pod Weekly, which is of course powered by Budget Tyres Auto Centre, the only car specialist trusted by the players, club officials and supporters of Hull Kingston Rovers. Apologies to anyone who's been sat patiently waiting for us to flick on to YouTube. A few technical difficulties I've just encountered. No, I wasn't on the phone to 𝗕𝘂𝗱𝗴𝗲. He wasn't demanding to come on this week's episode. There what generally was some technical difficulties. We've got two Robin Pod regulars joining us for this week's edition. Graham Turner and Karl Smith are here to give their views on all things Hull Kingston Rovers. And let's start with the weather, Graham. But you're probably not in this country at the moment.
No, I am, Johno, but you look as if you're not. You're on the beach somewhere or what?
Well, as we were saying, I was going to treat the YouTube viewers to maybe a topless show today, but I've stuck with my Rovers vest, so it's just the gun show today rather than a topless one.
Yeah, something for the ladies, that one, Johno.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm sure many people are still basking in the sunshine, let alone basking in a third victory in the derby of the season. 24 points to 10 victors over that lot at Hull City Stadium. Let's start off there, Karl. Funny old game in a way, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was one of those where Rovers sort of blew them away for the first 20, 30 minutes. And then beyond that, it was like, right, we're going to get it dragged into a bit of a dogfight here. And second half wasn't very pretty, was it? There was a lot of nonsense, as I call it, going on, messing around the ruck, slowing the play the balls down, blah, blah, blah. All the stuff that Hull are good at, and that's why they're rubbish. So, yes, we blew them away in that first 20, 30 minutes, and the job was done by then. But it wasn't a great watching second half. But, you know, that was sort of down to the nonsense on the field. I
mean, that opening, 18, 20 minutes, Graham, Matt Parcell had them on absolute strings, didn't they? And I was saying to Karl, we watched the game together. We were sat together at the ground. You know, this could be a cricket score the way this is heading. Obviously, it didn't pan out like that, and I think probably a big reason for that was the injury to Nar Levels, obviously leaving the pitch on minute 20. No doubt had a big effect on our attacking prowess.
Yeah, it was that feeling you got of we were playing so well. They just could not handle Parcell's speed, which was fantastic to see for us. And it was almost are you sure he couldn't go around another year again for us performing like that? And that would have been ideal. But yeah, in that first 20 minutes, we looked, I won't say untouchable, but certainly against Hull, they hardly laid a finger on us. They hardly had any ball. We absolutely dominated and almost put the game to bed with just 20 minutes on the clock. But yeah, that was a significant moment. I think 𝗬𝗆's going off. It meant we had to readjust, meant Mike had to go in at fullback and make a couple of tweaks. So that just seemed to disrupt that attacking prowess that we had. And then going into half time 18-0 up and absorbing all that pressure that was sort of the back 10 minutes of the half that Hull had, where it felt like if they were going to score, then it could be real game on. But we were resilient. Defence was good. Held them out to 0 at half time, and I think the vast majority of people felt that was game over by that particular point.
Was Willie Peters justified in changing the starting hooker? Obviously, Leyland from the bench and Parcell starting. We've been accustomed most recently to Jez Leyland starting, haven't we? Of course, involved in two. One drop goal victory, one drop goal defeat. Was it a change you expected and was it justified?
Personally, for me, I think the performance says yes, it was absolutely justified. I think over the past few weeks, when starting, I don't think Jez has been as dynamic as that for us, and it was evident to see there that putting the right player in it who was in form at that particular time to start and really get us on the front foot and set a tone for that first period, which we didn't have the week before against Catalans. I think was sort of night and day. It just gives a gentle reminder to, potentially to Jez to say, we've got to up our game again, and that natural competition between the two for the jersey is a healthy one. So I think it does Jez good to come on and be that interchange, and then be dynamic when he comes on. And likewise, we all know how effective 𝗬𝗏 can be when he comes on and does his stuff. So yeah, I think absolutely justified given the levels of performance, and then what we've seen on Saturday. I think that absolutely justified that particular decision that Peter's made.
Yeah, Karl, I mean, we'll talk about the hooker situation for 2025 a little bit later on in the Robin pod. Obviously, the Robins announcing just yesterday that they'd signed Bill Leyland from Monday, from the London Broncos. We'll talk about that a bit later on. Michael Lewis moving to fullback. We've seen him play at hooker for England. We've seen him play in the halves, of course. Seen him play at fullback now. I do think Michael Lewis looks okay at fullback, but we lose so much when he comes out the halves, I think. Yeah,
massively. It's the running for it out the line, isn't it? And it's got all the opposition teams on tenterhooks, hasn't it? And if he's not close to the line and he's not punching holes in the line and committing defenders and causing havoc for the opposition defence, he's nowhere near as effective. Obviously, his running game's decent from deep, but he's just not as effective as he is when he's at 7. So yeah, it works. It fills a gap, but I think you take more away from us in terms of attacking threat than you do when he's up fullback.
Yeah, I think there was 2 moments, Graham, for me that slightly changed the course of the game. 𝗍𝘆's going off. The next one was the introduction of Brad Fash on 25 minutes. Now, I don't have a very high opinion of him, and don't even get me started on the haircut. But what he did do was disrupt the Robins, and I was a bit disappointed, really, in 𝗬𝗏𝗔 𝗀𝗃, how he got sort of into a bit of an arm wrestle with him, which he didn't need to do. He didn't need to drop to that level. I think 𝗬𝗏𝗀𝗃 𝗀𝗃, we all know he's a far, far superior player, recently capped by England. But he did get involved and ultimately paid the price for getting involved by getting the sin bin.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I think you're right. Brad Fash's job was to disrupt and get under the skin of his opposite number. So if that was his job, then I think, job done. Impacting the game, I don't think he did particularly much Fash in that way, but I agree that it was, I guess after seeing the photograph of him that was sort of doing the rounds and the reason why it went to disciplinary, you can understand why he's reacted to something like that. But it seemed it wasn't just an isolated incident, and I think if memory serves, they've got a bit previous as well from other derbies earlier on. So yeah, maybe Brad Fash's sole job was to get under 𝗬𝗀𝗀𝗃's skin, wind him up, knock him off his game, which he did to an extent, but ultimately, Minnie had the last laugh in the last minute to seal the game.
Yeah, well, I've never seen a player take a round of applause at the end of a sin binning, as he's walking off down the tunnel and after being given a sin binning. And if no one has seen
there's a level of ambition, I think, John, of that.
Well, I would totally agree. And if no one has seen the picture of Brad Fash allegedly grabbing 𝗬𝗏𝗀𝗃's 𝗀𝗃's marbles, but they have seen the picture of Vinnie Jones and Paul Gascoigne. It's a little bit similar to that. I mean, he's got away with it, Brad Fash, Karl, because they said that there's not enough evidence to suggest that he had actually done that. I mean, they say a picture paints 1,000 words, don't they? Well, I don't know what they've seen to not ban him further based on that picture alone.
I'd love to know who's on the panel who makes these decisions, because we could do it to get to Specsavers, couldn't they? Really, it's one of those. I know what you're saying in terms of you're disappointed about Elliot getting involved with it and all that type of stuff, but it's a derby and it's heat of the moment. You're knocking 10 bells out of each other. So whether he's a captain or not, or he's a far better player and he should do this and he should do that. It's all under the heat of the moment, isn't it? So if it happens to yourself, you'd probably react in that way, wouldn't you? So it's easy to say you shouldn't have got involved in this, that, and the other. But yeah, in terms of in terms of the decision of, you know, not guilty type of thing, it's like, what more do you actually need?
Yeah. And to be fair, if you try it on me, you probably need 2 hands or a wheelbarrow at least.
You'll tell me in any other way, shape or form in terms of pictures what more evidence you need. Yeah. Apart from his kegs being around his ankles, ain't much more he could have done. and that's how laughable it is, you know. And I was listening to Umberside on there Monday night, and Paul Cook was on with James Smales, and Cook is sort of, I won't say he was defending Brad Gash, but it's sort of, no, there's, you know, there ain't much evidence there. I'm thinking, what more evidence do you need? And he's a, you know, an experienced professional ex-player and current pundit. So I mean, is it you seeing what you want to see?
Yeah. Well, I was going to say it's one of the few appeals from Simon Griggs where they've actually wanted him suspended.
I think as well, John, just reading Peter's comments. I don't know if anybody's read those yet on the incident, and he alludes to the fact that, look, it's a really, really tough sport. So is boxing, so is UFC, and in all those other sports, going below the belt is an absolute no-no. So what on earth Fash is wanting to go down there for anyway, in a brutal sport like rugby league, it just begs the question of what on earth is he doing?
Yeah, other than what we've already said about disrupting, being that nuisance. And
let me put it this way: concussion's the biggest thing in our game, and rightly so. Right? If you're a carrier of the ball, right, and you're running into an oncoming pack, would you rather have a clip around the head, or have your private part sort of grabbed? I know what I'd rather have.
Well, it's a different type of knock of the head, isn't it? I suppose.
I'm trying to keep it clean. Yeah.
Seriously, let's stop talking about him. Let's keep talking about Minchella, because I've noticed of the last 3 games, he's making more meters, and I can back that up because in the last 3 games, he's made over 100 meters. The game against Hull on Saturday, he made 137 meters, which is most of the season. Prior to the last 3 games, the 13 games previous, he failed to make over 100 meters in any of them. Now, does that tell you, Graham, that there's maybe a bit of a change in style to his game, because it seems a bit more of a coincidence? He's carrying the ball more, and we've seen during the course of the season, haven't we, where he's almost acted like another halfback, where he tips the ball on and he allows Rovers to then be able to spread it out. But for me, he does seem to be maybe going down the middle a bit more now.
Yeah, I would sort of concur with that, Johno, and say I think there has been a slight shift to his game. We know he's a big, strong boy. We know he can run hard with the ball. What he's tended to do quite a lot was sort of go sideways a little bit and then bring others into play. But I think you're right that there's been a slight shift in him being able to take on the line more. And I think it was no more evident than near the line for Lewis's try, where he got that tackle and he got that arm loose and offloaded to Parcell to Lewis. So yeah, I think there has been a subtle shift in his game, which I think for us is going to be beneficial, because, as you say, to get 100 metres in a Super League game is no mean feat for somebody who plays in the middle, and it just gives us another attacking option, I think.
Yeah, and it gives the defending team also a different scenario, doesn't it? Because if they've watched maybe tapes back previously, they'll, like you said, he does sort of crab a little bit, but that is a very deliberate move to move it along the side of the pitch. Now he's given they've got to be fearful of whether he's going to go direct at them, whether he is going to make the pass, whatever he's going to do. So it is another string to his bow, and it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, especially at Leeds on Saturday. You mentioned the offload from Minchella to Parcell. Well, just special mention for Mikey Lewis, the way that he was able to ground that ball for the try. The speed at what he was doing, I thought he'd over in real time. I mean, I'd love to have seen a replay, but unfortunately, as per usual, something wasn't working at that stadium. It wasn't just the players, it was also the screen, so I couldn't see any replays. But in real time, it was such a fast move, and the way he got the ball down, and of course, he loved the celebration as well.
Yeah, and I think that when you watch it, back. If you've not, I'm sure you've watched it already, John. But the ball hits him at speed as well. But that I think is his ability to read the game and almost see what's happening, which is why I think he can function pretty well at fullback, because he understands what's going on in a situation. But admittedly, it does take away from our attacking option. But yeah, it was coming onto the at pace, and there was no way it was being stopped. And I think he was comfortably getting it in, by half a metre or so into the white line. But yeah, I think he does love a celebration in front of that south stand.
Yeah, 18-0 down at half time, Karl. We probably didn't expect them to mount any kind of fight back. We're probably a bit frustrated that Rovers hadn't gone on to get more points, but I think the disruption to the side with Evels going off and then the sin binning for 𝗵𝗂𝗧. It took 53 minutes to get their first points. No, sorry. It took 𝗬𝗪𝗠 going off with another sin binning for Hull to get their first points of the board. They went on to score another try during the period he was sin binned. I suppose that was their level, wasn't it? That they couldn't cope with 13 men of Rovers. And it was only when 𝗬𝗪𝗠 went off that they was able to capitalise on that. Willie Peters has been praising the Robins for the resilience and the defence that they showed, and the fact that they restricted Hull to only 2 scores. But I'm sure he'll be frustrated that they did get them 2 scores, regardless of the fact that 𝗬𝗪𝗠 was off at the time.
Yeah, and I think he'll be more frustrated with our own team rather than Hull doing anything, really good to get points on the board. It was more off the back of Rovers being a bit. Yes, there was a bit of disruption with Evels going off and a few, around pegs in square holes, so to speak. So yes, there will be an element of that, and that does have a knock-on effect in the second half. But in terms of Hull FC's points, they were just off silly, like that penalty, not the penalty, sorry, the sin bin for 𝗬𝗪𝗠. I mean, it's just why do we need to be doing that? Your points up in the game, you're fairly comfortable without them threatening so much, and then someone not on this silly. Well, should we call it an obstruction? Because I take it that's what he got binned for, sort of an obstruction and delaying a quick restart, wasn't it? So for me, it's things that we can do better. It's not the case that Hull was good at what they was doing. It was sort of us making a few mistakes and being disrupted by those, So yes, he'll be frustrated, because I think me and you sat there at half time, and you think, right, we can get another 3 or 4 scores here. Because what Hull was doing wasn't really troubling us a great deal, was it, up to that point? So, yes, he'll be frustrated, but at the end of the day, you look back at the end of the season and you go, well, hold on a minute, we'll beat them 3-0 over the course of the season, sort of job done. You just think another 2 points, don't you? So it's another 2 points on the ladder and you move on. So he'll be fairly gutted with certain aspects, but obviously he'll be very pleased about other aspects as well.
Yeah, and I suppose, Graham, the boys do deserve a certain amount of credit, don't they, for the way that they dug in, the resilience that they showed. Albeit playing a very poor side that had at least made themselves competitive. The fact that they missed one of their conversions, which meant the Robins still had an 8-point lead. There was still pretty much at arm's length, wasn't there? And I mean, another sin binning did help the Robins with 10 minutes, 11 minutes left to go, and then 𝗵𝗂𝗧 capitalises gets on the end of Ryan Hall's kick. Just felt like Hull were at arm's length for a lot of that second half after they got the 2 tries and 𝗬𝗪𝗠 had come back on. Yeah,
there was that flurry of points and flurry of excitement in the home crowd that they were going to get back into the game, but I think we controlled the game better in that last 20 minutes when we needed to close it out, and I don't think there was any real threat that we were under in that particular period where we were hanging on or we were defending for our lives on our line. I don't think we ever had a period where we had to do that. So I think we got that control back when we went back up to 13. But I agree with Karl, it was a silly thing to get 10 minutes for and put your team under pressure. If that was a different game in different circumstances, for example, where you're playing one of the big teams and you do that, then you're going to get heavily punished. 18-0 up at the time, I won't say it didn't matter, but it put a bit of a polish on the scoreboard for them that was, wasn't looking likely at in that first half. So yeah, I think that getting back to 13 focused the minds again. We then got the control back into it, and I thought we closed the game out fairly comfortably.
A few changes to the starting lineup, Graham. Are you a fan of 𝗕𝘂𝗧𝗏 coming off the bench?
Yeah, I was. While you were having your technical issues, Johno, Karl and I were talking, and I sort of suggested that I don't know if there's a double side to this coin of it was 𝗫𝗓𝗏𝗏𝗏's first game back, so there was a natural cover if anything went wrong with 𝗫𝗓𝗏, but then also the way that he performed in the second row and the cover that he provided there is that, you know, defensively, 𝗬𝗓𝗏 I think is really solid. We know he can run with the ball. He's strong. He's sort of physically quite a decent size as well. So I think he actually fits the mould of a modern day second rower. So wouldn't be surprised if that didn't come to sort of fruition at some point in the future as well. Because I thought he sort of fitted in pretty well into that particular role. But I think it was a double-edged cover that he had in there, and certainly for 𝗫𝗓𝗏, just on that first game back, the what-if scenario, I think he was there primarily for that particular reason.
Well, Karl, if rumours are to be believed, 𝗕𝘂𝗧𝗏 won't be a Robin next season. Hearing lots of rumours mentioned on the Robin pod previously about him going to St Helens. It's all rumours. Plenty of rumours going around. It's silly season at the moment, of course, isn't it? With the Super League announcing the deadline for transfers, and you've got movement happening right now. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. And we did wonder, didn't we, whether 𝗕𝘂𝗧𝗏 would feature maybe in the back in the second row. Matty Staunton starting. He's not a player who's got too many minutes this season, let alone an opportunity to start a game. Do you feel like we're struggling to cover Batchelor at the moment? Because we do seem to have lost a little bit in defence and attack with him missing.
I think you're always going to miss a starting backer, all right? Whether it's Batchelor or any other starting second row in Super League. So yeah, you'll miss them. But I think credit to Willie Peters he's played the right people in the right spaces at the right times. You know, I'm not sure. Sorry, he starts starting against one of the bigger teams. So he seems to be making the right calls at the right times, and the results are coming off the back of that. So you've got to give him credit. And while he was saying your little piece there, I was gonna give a special mention to Matty Staunton, because he's been in and out the side a few times, and there's certain games where he's only played 10 minutes and whatnot. And to be fair, you know, he had a half decent game on Saturday, ran a couple of good lines, and got a score off the back of it. So credit to him. And you know, that's what it's about, being a squad player, isn't it? It's being ready when you're called upon. When you're called upon, you take your opportunity, and you certainly did so on Saturday. So credit to Matty.
Yeah, Graham, Jack Brown favoured instead of George King on Saturday. I did wonder if with him facing his form side, whether he'd be brought back into the team. He'd been 18th man the last couple of games. So I did wonder whether this would be his opportunity. I suppose George King didn't necessarily cover himself in glory against Catalan. So just a bit of a funny one, as I tried to speak to Keith about it on the Robin pod last week. Just a bit of a strange situation with him at the moment.
Yeah, he seems to be caught in a bit of limbo, doesn't he? He can't get the levels of performance that are expected, or that certainly we want to see, or that Willie Peters wants to see. And is going at the end of the season, so there's that dilemma of Jack Brown's here is a future. King's not, in my opinion, not one of the first choice props to start. Is sort of down the pecking order, and the only way to get up that pecking order is to fight for your place, and you know that can only be done in performances and your attitude on and off the field during the week. And obviously Willie Peters doesn't see enough of that to give him a starting jersey. So yeah, I think it's a few of the above points of commitment, end of season, leaving, impact, etc., and is probably looking more towards the future and getting minutes under Jack's belt than he is under George's at the minute.
Yeah, it's funny watching. I was trying to compare him to 𝗀𝗡𝗏𝗏, Karl. Obviously, former Robin in swap deal for Jack Brown. Featured heavily for that lot this season. I think played 80 minutes on Saturday. Offering quite a bit for them at the moment. It'd be interesting to see where he'd be in the pecking order at Rovers right now if he'd have stayed. But I suppose that's the shoulda, woulda, coulda, if maybes, who knows? And you know, obviously he's took his opportunity to play in a struggling side, and he's bettered them. Albeit he's gone to them and being one of their frontline props, and it probably tells you where we are, where he couldn't get into the side, if we're honest.
Yeah, I think the difference between the two players is, you know, I think Jack Brown's got age on his side. I'm not saying 𝗀𝗻𝗏𝗀𝗲𝗏's a, you know, veteran by any stretch of the imagination, but he's got youth and he's a local lad. You know, he knows the city inside out. Where I think if he was, you know, coulda, woulda, shoulda, like you said, I still think I'd going to be on the fringes of the reserves team more than anything. And I think it shows you how far Rovers have come. You know, you mentioned George King a few moments ago. Now, you know, he was one of those last season where he was playing sort of big minutes, and he's one of those players where he has to play big minutes to show you what he's got, because he's one of those where he's got a good engine, a good work ethic. His skill set's not great, and like me and Graham was discussing earlier, you know, he's not going to punch holes in every single line and all that type of stuff. So I think the days of Rovers having steady eddies and good working, you know, forwards and backs, etc., I think them days are overs, you know, are really over. So you've got to bring a full package if you're a player now, not just one or two attributes. It's got to be a full package if you want to be starting in the 13 for Rovers. Yeah,
and to be fair, Graham, if you look at our roster of props, you've got 𝗀𝗏𝗏 and 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏, who were pretty much 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, who were pretty much your battering rams. Although I must say that I've been impressed with 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏's tackling rate. That's really come on. And another good try for him against that lot on Saturday, punching his way through the hole. Then you've got 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, Hadley. You could put Brown into there. You could put Staunton at a push. Similar types of players out there. And then I think like what Karl said, Willie Peters was like that, almost like all-round prop. So all players that can actually go between the second row and the prop position as well.
Yeah, and I think it just gives that opportunity for rotation, doesn't it? It spreads the load. It gives people that more than just that one-dimensional role of going forward as hard as you can, and like you said, the battering ram. They're effective, but you've also got to have mobility. You've got to have agility. You know, you've got to be decent ball handler as well. So I think that all-rounder tag, I think, is sort of evident in what players we've got. And you know, you look at how 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏, in my opinion, has progressed this season in terms of the impact he's making. It literally looks like a different player to last season in terms of his physique, the way he's playing, the impact he's making. I think is really, really positive this season. And again, Karl and I were talking offline beforehand, and I sort of gave the example of a player who seems to have adapted really well from a steady Eddie into one of the first names on the team sheet. It's been Dean Hadley, in terms of he's now running with the ball. He's now got movement at the line. He's got a decent pair of hands on him. He's not just a battering ram, and he's not just a grafter who's just going to tackle his heart out all day. He still does all that, but he now seems to have added a few more strings to his game, which again I think has benefited him and probably quite rightly put him on radar with everybody about actually he's a very good player.
Yeah, and I'm touching a massive piece of wood right now, but I dare say the conditioning.
You've got your shorts off again, have
you? Well, viewers on YouTube we can only guess at what's underneath. All they can see is my top half, so I'll leave that to the imagination. But I dare say the conditioning of the likes of 𝗀𝗏𝗏 and Hadley has been better. They're out on the pitch longer. They're playing more games. And 𝗀𝗏 looks lean. He looks fit. He's definitely doing more minutes. Hadley, them niggly injuries that he used to suffer, which then put him out for 3-4 games, have seemed to have gone. So it's credit to the conditioning staff and the plans or staff that Willie Peters have put in place, that ultimately we're getting more bang for your buck, aren't you? You're getting more value out of the players that you've got.
Yeah. Again, I'll touch your wood. I'll touch your wood as well, Johno. I think on this one, that you'd see in those players pretty much week in, week out on the team sheet. You're not going 2 or 3 games and then they're out for 2 or 3 games, which we've seen over the last couple of seasons. So again, all of the above of what you just said there about conditioning, nutrition, health, and well-being, looking after themselves away from the pitch, etc. That's all got to be part of the package. And especially with Hadley probably being nearer the back end of the age group of a shelf life of rugby play, like Ryan Hall's shown what you can do if you do apply yourself in a professional manner as to how long you can go on playing for. So I think it's testament to the backroom staff, to the players themselves for owning that. It's their careers they've got to deliver on. So for them to get maximum out of it, make maximum impact, get the new contracts that they want to get for their rugby league careers, they've got to perform. So the more they can do to look after themselves and be more minutes on the pitch is only going to help them.
Yeah, and Karl, I mean, that defeat to Catalan, that drop goal defeat is all the more frustrating, isn't it, when you see St Helens obviously lost again to Wigan, and our league position could have been a little bit healthier than what it is right now.
Yeah, it's certainly frustrating, but it's one of those, yourself, Rovers never do it the easy way, do we? It'd have been far too easy just to go and wipe the floor with Catalan, wouldn't it? And then, over second place type of thing. So, yeah, it's all well and good in hindsight, but it's all Kingston Rovers. So, expect the unexpected, as they say.
Yeah, and I think final word on the game should go to Craig Eskerett, who I'm sure will be listening to the Robin pod. If anyone caught Elliot Mincella's post-match interview, he described how Craig got the opportunity to speak to the players, I think prior to or just after their captain run on Friday, and he spoke about the importance of the derby, how for a long time Rovers supporters have sort of had to play second fiddle to that lot across the river, and he really hammered home how much it meant to the supporters in his soul to not just win, but consistently win. And Minchella did say he was ready to go play that game right there and then. So I do think his words really hit home. And obviously, sending all our love, Craig, wishing you all the best for your journey so far. And I think it's his lad's last run tomorrow. His 20K challenge that he'd set himself to run. It's his last one. It's at East Park. I think it's a 6 p.m. start. Meet at the Summer Gang's entrance. If you can, go cheer him on, take part, join in, get involved. Fantastic effort, but great team talk as well. Love to be in a fly on the wall. Graham, another piece of transfer business this season. Hull Kingston Rovers announcing the signing of Bill Leyland from the London Broncos on a 2-year deal. He's 21 years old. He's made 35 career appearances. He made 32 appearances during London Broncos' championship winning season, which led to promotion to Super League. He's got 13 tries in that season. He's a championship young player of the year. Unfortunately, he hasn't played this season due to suffering an ACL injury, and he'll be joining the Robins fresh for pre-season for season 2025. Impressed with the signing?
Yeah, I think so. It's definitely one for the future, and I think it's in terms of a player. And listening to the player talk himself, he seems to be very much in the mould of Matt Parcell in terms of physical size, the way he sort of sees the game, the way he sees the role of hooker. He's dynamic. He loves to run with the ball and move the ball quickly. So I think we can see a similar type of player. Whether we'll get the experience straight away that Parcell's got after umpteen years playing at top level, I'm not quite sure. Whether his decision making is going to be there, but that will come with time. As it says, at 21 years of age, is going to be sat with with Jez Litton as an experienced pro alongside him, interchanging with him. So I think he's used to playing in that 2 hooker system. The season when he played last season. So I think that will benefit him having an England international to work with on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, I think it's definitely one for the future. And if it, young player of the year is a tag that's not given out lightly. So if he can fulfil that potential that people have obviously seen in him at Championship level, and he can turn that into Super League experience and then become an established Super League player, potentially we've got a good player on our hands.
Yeah, Karl. I mean, if anyone's caught the interviews that Leyland has done so far, he openly admits that he's probably not an 80-minute player, that he's an impact player. He's happy to dovetail with another hooker. He's a bit taller than some hookers normally are, and he said that he's a bit more powerful and he loves that strike game. So you'd imagine he's coming into the side to partner up with 𝗬𝗓𝗏 there, because I can't imagine the club bringing in another hooker. We've sort of been here before, haven't we, with 𝗬𝗂𝗏𝗏, who was the, I think, League One Young Player of the Year. For whatever reason, it's not worked out with him, and he was signed on a one-year contract. They had the option of taking out another year on him. They've not done that, and of course he's playing for Dewsbury at the moment. I dare say he was earmarked for that position once 𝗦𝗣𝗢𝗏𝗃 decided to retire. Genuinely wish him all the best, don't we? I suppose the only challenge to it is that he has only made 35 first grade appearances, and supporters will have to be mindful next season that this isn't 𝗦𝗣𝗢𝗏𝗃 Mark II. This is a young guy still finding his way in the game, still learning the ropes. You know, he's been used to being a part-time player. He's coming into a full-time setting. Not everybody adapts to that positively. But from what we've seen and what people have seen in the highlights reels and what he did for London, there is a promising player there.
Oh, without a doubt, he's obviously good at Championship level. The next question is, can he break through into Super League stage and be consistent on that stage? And as we all know from years gone by, it's one of those where you see a lot of Championship players who are tearing the Championship to shreds year after year, and they just don't quite make it in Super League for a number of reasons. Yeah, he looks the part at that level. Can he bring it up? You know, I think he's fairly tall, isn't he, for a hooker? So yeah. He'll be good close to the line. You know, shaking bodies up and whatnot, and hopefully he can give us that extra more of a running dimension than what we've had in the past. So I think it's only positive. And to be fair, I was hoping he was going to touch on this scenario with the Championship players, because last few weeks we've sort of, well, not just few weeks, months, maybe even seasons. You know, I think a lot of Rovers fans and fans of other clubs in general, they get a bit frustrated, don't they? You know, a lot of Super League clubs take punts on Championship players who are in part-time environments and totally different environments to Super League. So when they get frustrated when they're not getting in the team or it's not quite working out, and then like with 𝗬𝗂𝗏𝗏𝗏 and AJ Wallace, people are getting frustrated, they're not getting game time. What I'd say to those people is this: when we were sort of bottom 2 or 3 clubs in the league last 6 or 7 years ago, that these players would walk into the team, but it wouldn't make us any better. So now we're at the top end of the table. These Championship players, we've got to be seen to be given opportunities and give them time. And just because we players don't throw them in the first season or so, it doesn't mean they're not good enough. So as supporters, we've got to stay, patient and go with what we think with the coach. So we've got to back the coach, and if it's not straight away, it doesn't pay off. Then we've got to keep waiting, and it'll be the similar thing with Leyland, won't it? He might not light it up straight away, and he might go out on loan somewhere, and like they're doing with AJ Wallace now, and players in the past. So yeah, there's potential there, but we've got to be patient. It's a big step up, isn't it?
Yeah, I think he's coming in though to play. I can't see a scenario where, unless Rovers bring in another hooker, where he isn't starting. I mean, we've got a hell of a lot of time to go between now and next season.
No, I dare say that is the, he'll be back up to 𝗬𝗓𝗏𝗏𝗏, won't he? I dare say that is the plan. But what I'm saying is, if it doesn't work out straight away, you've also got to factor in all his personal things going on. I don't think he's ever lived away from home. I listened to an interview the other day with him, and he said I think he's lived with one of his teammates for a few months, and then he was living with his parents. So going from down south to up north on your own, don't know any of the lads, it's a big change for him, isn't it?
Well, so I've got a spare room, Karl, if he wants to come and lodge at the Johnson.
Yeah, you've got a 5-bedroom, mate. Everybody can get in your house.
He can come. Well, I was thinking bunk beds. I'd go with him.
Yeah, but Yeah, all jokes aside, there's, you know, it's not just a case of signing him and then he's going to do the business. There's a lot of factors as these in any signing, isn't there? So, but hopefully it can go well.
Graham, AJ Wallace, it was announced earlier that he's joining Doncaster on loan for the rest of the season. I mean, take Bill Leyland out of the equation because, you know, you can't say anything about him yet. We don't know, do we, what's going to happen, you know. I know there is frustration, though, from some Hull Kingston Rovers supporters that we bring in some promising Championship League One talent and that potentially stunts the opportunity for some of our homegrown academy players to take an opportunity to play in the first team. And I know there's an obsession, probably quite rightly so, that we see more of these kids given an opportunity to play. And I think that is where some of the frustration would come from, that we're bringing players in who don't seem to be at the level required to make that step up into Super League. And some people will be going, well, hang on, we've already got X, Y, Z in the academy. Why aren't we putting more faith in them? I don't know. Rightly or wrongly.
I think it's the environment's a lot of it, Chris. Isn't it? Sometimes you're signing players from low levels, but they're not used to the environment. So if they're coming into a full-time environment and they're not sort of cutting it in training, Willie sees it on a day-to-day, doesn't he? You know, so it's not just a case of giving people opportunities. Even the academy players, they've got to go through all the ranks, and even in training, obviously, Willie's got eyes on every single player that's on that training paddock. So, like I say, there's a lot of things that, you know, that go on, and a lot of things that entail even before they get a sniff at the first team. You know what I mean? So it's all things that needs to take in consideration day to day.
Yeah, I think just to add to what you've both said there, Johno, I think that whole transition from part-time or youth player to come up the ranks, and the physicality that's needed and the body, you know, the body composition that's needed to be a Super League player, they've got to build that resilience up, and gradually you can just lob players in, obviously, but sometimes it can go one way or the other. Is that they'll have a wow of a game, but they'll get injured, or they're just not physically up to the demands of it week in, week out. So I think the opportunity to send players out on loan will allow them week in, week out game time at a good standard. It allows them to be monitored in game as well, see if progress is being made, see if they are adapting to that, to the rigors of, you know, every weekend with a meaningful fixture under the belt, and then see if the progressions happen in a safe environment for them. And I guess it's that old dilemma of, you know, if you enjoy your footy as well, of Premier League and how many, you know, foreigners, inverted commas, are brought in rather than the chance for academy players to go in. It's the same scenario of what do you want your success to look like, and there's that fine balance of it being up the league in the semi-finals and the finals of competition, or is it, you know, blood in the youngsters to become part of your furniture for the next 3 to 5 years, for example. So there's a fine balance to be had on it all. And yeah, I don't think there's anybody better placed than Peters and the coaching staff and Jason Everton and the academy staff to make the right calls on players and those that are ready to move up to first team training opportunities, and then ultimately those that are able to step up that next level to get first team jerseys on their backs, and then even further that become an established Super League first team player. Those are massive steps for players when they're just coming up and lining the ranks. So yeah, I think it's a good opportunity for players to do that. The other opportunities, if you stayed, you might just rot and not progress at all, and then that's just a waste of a player. So yeah, I'm all for giving players opportunities, and if the opportunity and the environment isn't right for them to progress, and you're prepared to keep them on your books, then get them some meaningful experience with meaningful games under the belt each weekend, monitor and track their progress, and then see if when they come back after a period of time, the sort of player that you've thought you were going to buy, because you're buying potential is what you're buying. There's no guarantee that potential is going to turn into a 250 Super League game player at the end of the day. You've got to work at that, and you've got to have a bit of luck on your side. You've got to have the right attitude. You've got to have the right environment around you, and the will to learn and develop. So all of those sort of ingredients are needed. It's not just because we've bought them, they're going to be a good player. There's lots of external factors, like Karl said there about moving 250 miles up north how is that going to affect him? I was just sort of reading his saying somebody's told him that Hull's the best place on earth to live, which I'm not quite sure who he's been speaking to, but I wonder if he'll have maybe a little bit of a shock when he's strolling down Holderness Road one afternoon. But that aside, that's just another external factor that he's got to adapt to, and if his home comforts are not there, he's going to take a bit of time to adapt to that as well. So yeah, it all goes into the mix, but it's an interesting one, because I say when you buy or when you recruit young players like that, you're just buying what you see in 2 or 3 years' time. Potentially, you're not necessarily buying the finished article.
No, and when to be fair, when Bill Leyland said about Hull being one of the best places to live or something like that, I just couldn't help thinking about Only Fools and Horses to Hull and back. And I just couldn't get that in coming up here. To anyway, we'll see. I'm sure he'll receive a warm welcome, and he will fit in very much. So I will say, as the club do seem to have managed the opportunity for some of the academy players, pro players now, to experience first grade rugby. We've seen Conor Barley, Louis Gorman, Fishwick, AJ Wallace, Tennyson feature for Featherstone this season. They've then been brought back to play in the reserves. They're no doubt playing more rugby league than they'll ever played at a decent level. Lenny Ellis, he went to Whitehaven, I think, last week. AJ Wallace, he went there as well. So these players are being exposed to a higher grade of rugby league, and hopefully we'll see that transition coming through, which leads us to the Leeds game on Saturday. Bazza85, watching it on YouTube, he's put this week I'd go Broadbent at fullback and Richardson on the bench just in case anything goes wrong. Then Mikey can go back to fullback. Obviously, Evalds is injured and won't be featuring against Leeds. Graham, is this an opportunity for Louis Gorman maybe to come into the side?
Possibly, yeah.
I mean, I must say, Broadbent does seem the logical choice.
It does, and it's how many pegs you want to move around the board. You could put Hicko in there now. Some may just mock at that, the way that the season started for us with that experiment. But you've also got Mikey Lewis to go in there with Danny Richardson coming in. You could put Hicko at fullback, Broadbent at centre. So I think we've got options.
Does Broadbent though cause the least disruption to the side?
I think
Gorman,
so. And
for example, Gorman or Broadbent.
Yeah, I think, yeah, and again, you could argue the case for either, but I think you're right. Broadbent does offer the least amount of moving around, and certainly taking Mikey out of that 7 role, as Karl alluded to earlier on, we do reduce our attacking threat at the line. So he seems a safe pair of hands. He seems to have a decent turn of pace on him as well. Look, if he's a good communicator and organizer, which is one of the key attributes of a fullback, then you could quite easily see that happening. On the flip side of that coin, you've got a young up and coming fullback who will no doubt get experience at some point. Is this the opportunity to give him that Super League jersey and say, go on then, have a go at Leeds Rhinos on Saturday? So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's Broadbent, but also I won't say I'd be more surprised if it was Gorman at this stage.
Yeah, Karl, what do you reckon to what Bazza said? Do you think Richardson on the bench and Broadbent at fullback is the most likely scenario?
No, I don't see you wasting a bench spot with an halfback. I just don't see it. For me, you keep it as simple as the change needs to be. So if it was me, I'd be putting Broadbent at fullback and keeping the 2 halves as they are. I don't see he doesn't offer anything on the bench having an half who can only play half. To my knowledge, Richardson doesn't play any other position. You might tell me differently, but I don't believe he does. So I don't see why you'd waste a bench spot. And let's be honest, I think Richardson has just been brought in for literally last case scenario cover, hasn't he? And we're not at last case scenario cover at the moment. So I just think you keep the change minimal, and then the disruption to the team is minimal, and hopefully that transpires onto the pitch. So it's a straightforward one for me.
We've seen that with Graham. Willie Peters isn't afraid to have an insurance policy on the bench. I mean, so the whole game, Tom Opperchick to cover potentially Gildart not coming through the game. I suppose it does create options. It's whether he's confident enough that the two forwards who are on the bench alongside the hooker, that they can come on and do the job that he needs them to do. And this isn't a great Leeds side, is it? I think they're missing. I think 𝗂𝗂𝗧𝗏 he's missing on Saturday. I think they're relying on 𝗬𝗏𝗂𝗀𝗏 a lot, who's not hit the peak of what he has done in previous seasons. So, you know, it's a difficult one for me, this one.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Karl on this one. I think 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗏𝗏 will be the cover at half if we need it on Saturday. Leave the halves as they are, put Broadbent in there. I agree. I don't think many squads will have a number 7 on the bench as cover for that scenario. On Leeds specifically, I think with them coming into this on some, I'd say, patchy form at best, given that they squeaked past London a couple of weeks back. I think they got well beaten by an average Warrington side last week as well. The only other sort of kicker to that is that they're going to be at home. Crowd no doubt will be on the back early doors, and they've got the new manager syndrome, so they're all going to be dead keen to show what they're all about. Potentially a couple of players coming back in from injury. Handley, I think, was mentioned, etc. So they're going to have some potential strike there, but not coming into it with any particular form. And I think we should go there full of confidence after last weekend. Start the way we did, and yeah, put them to bed early is my message. But we'll see what happens on Saturday.
Yeah, Karl. I mean, Leeds Rhinos occupy 7th place in the table on 18 points. They've won the last out of the last 7 games. They've won 3 and lost 4. And they're going into this game. I think they'll run of fixtures. They've got to play. I think they've got to play the top 6, the current top 6. 7 of them games are against the current top 6. So they've got a huge run, and they haven't beat any of the current top 6 so far this season. So it does prove it is going to be a difficult one for Leeds Rhinos. But like Graham said, new manager syndrome. Could that give him the bounce, because apparently he's been into them about their line speed and how they need to defend better, and that has been one of the big criticisms from Leeds Rhinos fans this season, is that Leeds have often waited for teams to attack them. But rugby league's not like football, is it, where you can get that instant spark for the odd game or so. It's a bit more process driven. So I don't know. I'm a bit more confident going to Leeds than I would have been in previous seasons. But it's not necessarily always been the best and most happy hunting ground for the Robins.
No, I think those stats you read out a second ago, Chris, I think they're obviously stats don't lie. They tell you what Leeds are at the minute, and that's very, very average. You know, yes, they have got factors of new coach and players wanting to prove themselves and being at home and all that type of stuff. And I take into account what you're saying about Rovers. You know, recent record there is not great, but if Rovers do what they've been doing the majority of the season and stick to the processes, you know, and finish opportunities, I don't see Rovers not winning. You know, and also what you've got to remember is Rovers, most of the games have won this season. They haven't blown many teams off the park, but they've got the know-how, haven't they? So if Rhinos was to win, Rhinos would have to be absolutely outstanding, and Rovers would have to be absolutely terrible. Where with Rovers, you know, they can play a standard half or a standard 60 minutes and get the job done. So, you know, I think the onus should be on Rovers, and I think it will be to go, you know, perform well for a longer period of time we did last week, and obviously get the 2 points. I see Rovers winning, maybe not as convincingly as some people think, but I see Rovers winning.
Yeah, and ironically, Graham, Rowan Smith's first game as coach of Leeds Rhinos was against the Robins, and of course it was a 12-0 victory.
The worst game ever, was it?
Pardon?
Was that the worst game of rugby league ever, that one?
That's up for debate, Graham.
Yeah. It's not one that lives long in the memory, is it?
No. No, but again, it is that factor of a new manager coming in. He'll want to impress himself. The players will want to impress themselves to him. I think they're going to have an extra 10% in their juice tanks. So we've got to be ready for that and be able to counter that and impose ourselves on the game rather than letting them impose themselves on us.
Yeah, Tiger Robin watching on YouTube, he's heaping a bit of pressure on Mikey Lewis, hoping for a Magic Mikey Magic show. Then me and the missus can enjoy a top night out in Headingley. Leeds have a new coach, but the personnel remains. We are so much better as long as we stick to the script.
The question is, Chris, does Tiger Robin, is he hoping for the Mikey Lewis show or the other Magic Mikey show?
Well, I was going to say, I thought
the second question is that for his missus or for himself?
Yeah, I thought the question would be whether he's doing the Otley run or where we might be heading. But yeah, you have to let us know, Tiger Robin. Hopefully you are toasting a victory on Saturday and you're having the time of your life and you're not down in the dumps, because I'm sure your missus will appreciate that. Graham, you had many good nights out in Leeds?
Had a few, yeah. My lad's there at university at the minute, so we're backwards and forwards there quite regularly. So we often spend an afternoon catching up with him, having a bite to eat, a couple of beers, etc. So yeah, quite a few days, afternoons over that way.
Yeah, I don't know what the weather forecast is, Karl, but I think I've spoke on previous Robin pods. Whenever I go there, it absolutely chucks it down. Now, the weather forecast could be absolutely 25 degrees, blazing hot sunshine, but I will guarantee you on Saturday there will be a downpour at some point.
Yeah, I was just going to say we can't have a Robin pod when it's a build up to the Rhinos without mentioning that lovely Great Western Terrace behind the sticks, can we? So
the relic.
Yeah, so the chances are it'll be raining and raining badly.
Yeah, and Tiger Robbins responded. He's
just checking, Johno. Go on.
I was just going to say, Tiger Robbins responded. He's put, haha, she'll be happy if Ryan Hall scores. That man makes being a man such an effort. I don't know. I think when Ryan Hall takes his top off, we all pretty much stack up, don't we? And we're not all like body doubles.
Is that what you're trying to impersonate? Yeah, with the best.
Yeah, that's it. Anyone listening on the podcast, unfortunately, won't be able to see Ryan Hall's body double at the moment. But if you watch on YouTube, obviously, you'll have you're being for a treat right now. Go on, Graham. What was your check-in?
Yeah, I was just checking the weather forecast, Johno, for Headingley on Saturday. This is according to the BBC weather app. 2 p.m. It changes from sunshine and white cloud to black cloud and sunshine with a drop of rain on it.
Is that serious?
46% chance of rain. Yeah. And then at 3 p.m., 3 p.m. we've got some lightning strikes as well, all the way through till 8 p.m. So
do you know what? I was taking the piss as well, and do you know what? There you go. That just proves it, doesn't it?
70% chance of rain. So take your brollies with you.
Right. No, I'll be making sure I'm sat down. I won't be in that Western Terrace. That's for sure. You two are in the tipping league, the prediction league. There's not been a lot of movement for the last few weeks because nobody can get the score predictions right. We're pretty much bang on, and we're predicting that the Robins are going to win, but predicting the correct scoreline seems to be a challenge at the moment. Scott Solway, he's in the lead in position 1. Carl Smith second. Congratulations, Carl. You're pushing Scott all the way, as is Dan Craft. Graham Turner sitting pretty in 4th place, hoping to make a late surge, no doubt, into the top spot. I'm 5th, halfway house. Stacey Moorforth, she loves predicting 36 points for the Robins. She's in 6th. James Perlin in 7th place. Steve Till is in 8th place. And then the 2 independents, Bry from the 6 Again podcast and Statman Reese from the Leeds Rhinos Lot Pod. He occupies 10th place. So I'll be putting out our predictions later on this week so you can see how we think the Robins will fare on Saturday. Before we sign off, Karl, what do you reckon of the Taylan May situation that Rovers find themselves in at the moment?
My honest opinion to it is nothing can happen. I think he's got himself in a bit of bother in Aussie, and I could be wrong, but I think he's not dual trial till January. So for me, I think he's getting away from the media spotlight, but also staying on the radar of other clubs. So I don't see him signing for a Super League team. I think he'll hold fire and sort of see what comes his way. Because if his trial goes the way he wants it to go, I'm pretty sure there'll be the likes of the Tigers or maybe the Dolphins or the Knights in the NRL who would love his signature. I don't see him coming over here, and I just don't see him playing for Rovers, if I'm totally honest.
Graham, regardless of the virtues of innocence or proven guilty and all that, is it just something that the club, and to be fair, they've distanced themselves from anything kind of official going on? It just seems something that potentially they don't need to be involved in, regardless of whether it's that they're making or not.
Yeah, I was trying to work out whether it's an actual non-story or not, and actually the media.
Well, that's the key point, actually, Graham. It is, on the face of it, someone just visiting the brother who happens to play for Kingston Rovers, but it's just the cloud around it. Yeah,
but I don't think it's a cloud that the club have created. I think they've been quite smart in saying Willie Peters came out saying he's here with his brother to visit his brother. Yeah, he was spotted wearing Tyrone's jersey, but so what? Doesn't mean he's going to sign for Rovers. It's I think people have been putting two and two together, and then you know what it's like in this city for rumours and counter rumours. So I think people have maybe put two and two together on it, but it's possibly actually a non-story, as Karl suggested there, is maybe just getting out of Dodge for a bit. Letting things die down away from it, because if he does get, an outcome whereby he wants to come to Super League and he can't get a visa, then it's a dead duck anyway.
Yeah, and it ain't as simple as just signing a contract right now, is it? There's so much stuff going on, and even if for the Robins, they've categorically denied that he won't be signing and he won't be Robins. So
I think the biggest thing is, Chris, as well. I think a lot of Rovers fans want the story more than anybody else wants the story. Yeah. Any type of top class NRL player / signing is getting linked with Rovers. It's all good publicity, isn't it? So for me, I think he's just biding his time. He'll look at his options when he's given his verdict, so to speak. I don't. And we don't know the financial side of it. There'll be other Super League teams and NRL teams, like I touched on, who will pay him a lot more than Rovers would. So yeah, it's good to be.
There's a quota spot as well, Karl, that it'd have to take up as well.
Yeah, and like you touched on, Graham, if he ends up with some form of criminal record, he's not going to get a visa. So, like I say, I think it's a starter for the fans and the fans only, in my opinion.
Yeah, I wonder if it was Taylan May who told Bill Leyland about Hull, about how great it was.
What, they've been here 2 weeks?
Well, best 2 weeks of his life could have been. Who knows? Right, that brings us to the end of this week's Robin Pod Weekly, which is powered by Budget Ties Auto Centre, the only car specialist trusted by the players, club officials and supporters of Hull Kingston Rovers. For now, live, love, laugh and be happy.